Hey everyone, welcome back to the Logistics and Leadership Podcast. Brian here. This next conversation was originally from another podcast called Adapt AI Group, hosted by Roark Baldwin. So big thanks to him and his team. We dive into how AI and digital transformation are impacting logistics and why. No matter how advanced the tech gets, leadership is still your job. Here's that conversation.
Well, to kick things off, could you tell me just a little bit about your background and maybe that initial vision or aha moment that led you and the co-founder to establish Veritas Logistics?
Yeah. Long story short, I've been in the logistics supply chain space for since 2009. I was at a larger brokerage company for roughly 10 years. It was just under that. But I started in the entry level role, moved my way up, it kind of in the ranks, got to like that mid level manager position, and I got to that position, and I felt like I was probably going to be there for 4 or 5 years. And that was not a time that I was wanting to wait in that role. I felt like I'd already done a couple things and had performed at a certain level. So that's when the wheels started turning on, okay, how can we do this and how can we do it just a little bit different? The company that I worked for, TQL, based here in Cincinnati, great company, extremely profitable, extremely well-run company. And it's something that I look back at, and I see that even the people that I met and the time that I was there, extremely valuable. Yeah, so they do a lot of things the right way, and I think for us, we just wanted to do it a little bit differently. So we got into that role, or I got into that role, the mid-level manager role, 2017, 2018, and I was only in it for a couple months before I had to call it quits and sit out my non-compete. And then we started this company in June of 2020. And it was right in the height of COVID, right? So COVID technically started in March of 2020. We had numerous people that, said, "Hey, are you sure that you want to do this? Are you sure that, you want to start at this time?" And for us, I had already sat out that non-compete and I was not waiting another day. So I was not, the non-compete time frame was definitely grueling mentally. And I did not want to wait another day. So, jump right in and try to do everything we could to start as a business. So yeah, it's here we are today. We're 5 years into the company. We just had our fifth anniversary last month in June, and we're a smaller logistics brokerage here based out of Cincinnati. We have roughly 22 people on board with us, and continue to grow and trying to service our customers the best way possible.
Great. And taking a logistics venture from that concept to a reality is a pretty significant undertaking. Never mind COVID and the economy being shut down and
Yeah, yeah.
restrictions on your team's ability to work. Could you walk us through maybe that first client, the key value proposition that convinced them to trust you as a new and emergent player?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was just leveraging the experience. Rarely do you have somebody in our space that has, 8, 10 years of experience to manage their freight for them, or, handle their freight on a daily basis. So they didn't have to teach me or coach me on what to do and how to do it. I knew the language, I knew what to do, and I knew how to execute. So I think that, key value proposition, especially with people within our organization today, it is that experience. We know that we're going to bring value to their group, as well as the level of care that we have for our client. That's at the end of the day, if we don't have clients, we don't have a business. So, very valuable for us is that partnership. And that's what we strive for. We strive for that long-term partnership with each and every one of our clients.
And the name Veritas implies your truth and integrity. It's on your website, it's on your LinkedIn. So how did that foundational value influence your approach to building your company, especially in a market that's complex?
Yeah. So I think, in our industry, there's a lot of gray area, especially with, shippers, drivers, carriers, on-time deliveries, on-time pickups, that sort of thing. And for us, we feel and we're passionate. If you don't have trust or you can't tell the truth, you don't have anything. You don't have a foundation. You have nothing to build on. So that's one thing that, we take very seriously. And we want to make sure that, we are telling the truth, especially in tough situations, because, that's where, we make our money, is delivering bad news and handling those situations and trying to come out on the other end, even though it's very, it can be challenging, right? Like
Yeah.
delivering bad news to a client that pays your bills, like, God, that's hard. But, we're, hopefully we're teaching and coaching and training the people within the organization to do that. At the end of the day, we care. We care about our clients' freight, and we want to make sure that, we're prioritizing them, every step of the way.
And last question here before I start pivoting towards the topic for today's podcast about digital transformation. I would like to go back to when you first started out. What were maybe some of the technological challenges you faced then, and how did you overcome them to set that groundwork for Veritas Logistics moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, early on, we were operating off spreadsheets and old school operating systems, right? So we had a TMS that was, I'm not going to name names, but it was very archaic, and the aesthetics of it were not very good. The functionality of it was not very good, and we had to make some changes. And we want to invest in a couple things here. It's people and technology, and we want to make sure that we're doing it right. Again, I think there's a lot of buzz out there right now. I know that we're going to get into it in a few minutes, but there is a lot of buzz for AI and automation and what's that going to look like, and are our jobs going to be alleviated within the next 10 years? And people are somewhat nervous or have some anxiety about that. I've talked to a couple different brokerage owners lately, and they're asking questions. Hey, what do you guys think? What's going on? Like all this AI buzz. What's the deal here? And I have some thoughts and opinions, and I think that how the more we get into it today, the more we can uncover some of those.
Sounds great. Well, that it's almost the exact question on the script next, right? Well, it seems like AI is the hot topic buzzword that people are throwing on things, even if it doesn't necessarily apply, or even if it's not the right context. So, topic for today's podcast is how CEOs, CMOs, business leaders can address digital transformation, especially in the logistics space. So I would love to hear from your perspective as a CEO of a logistics company. How are you transforming your business operations? And fundamentally, how has that reshaped your client services?
Yeah, so I don't think I do think AI is coming, right? So anybody that says, "Oh, we're just gonna focus on we're gonna do what we've always done and it's gonna be fine," like, gosh, I I'm not sure I believe in that, right? I do think it's coming. It's coming very quickly, especially over the past couple years. Now, do I think it's going to be the be all end all? I don't. I think, it's going to be a very good supplement to what we have today. And is it going to alleviate some low level tasks and low level positions that, can be automated? It might. It might do that. Unfortunately. But at the same time that, as a CEO and a co-founder of the business, we have to set our sights on, okay, how do we implement this type of technology into our organization today? And how do we put people behind it to monitor, manage it? Because I do think that if you don't have somebody behind it, I think it's great to have a great AI product or a great automation tool. But if you don't have somebody behind it to manage it properly, you're not going to get implementation within your business. It's not going to help change your business. You're not going to get any adoption within your employees, right? So if you have a manager that doesn't really believe in it, it's going to fall on deaf ears, and you're going to spend a lot of money on this tech, and you don't really use it, and you're not getting anything from it. So I think that you have to have a good operator that actually believes in it and can tell a good story and how it can make people's lives easier, especially in their day-to-day work.
Well, there's a lot of companies that aren't using, and you even mentioned it, right? Like we'll just kind of wait this out and we'll see what emerges. So I would say if a new company startup is saying, "Look, I would love to implement AI or a new digital technology," Brian, from your experience, what do you think would be the first thing I should go after? What are some of those low hanging fruits that if a company is not using them now, they absolutely should be looking at it?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think document retrieval. I mean, there's a couple companies that we work with today that automate different invoicing processes, different document retrieval, things like that that are, sending an email to a potential or a carrier, understanding, um, we need certain documents or we need a signed POD after delivery. Sometimes drivers, they might lose it or they might not send it in for a couple of days. Well, we need that information to send it off to our clients. So instead of having a person do that, we can set up a bot or set up an AI tool to continue to try to get, some of those documents so that we can, continue on with the workflow. I also think, as far as like an AI tool, there's a couple companies out there on the sales front where they can automate some of the follow-up, or they can automate some of the cadence with these clients or these customers to say, "Hey, you've reached out to X customer or X prospect on this day. It's been about 10 days during, per that conversation that we recorded and we uploaded. You should reach out to them now." Right? And I think that's where a lot of salespeople fall short is the follow-up, where you have the initial call, you have a great conversation, and then it falls on deaf ears or the prospect ghosts you and says, "Well, we're not really in need of the service 2 months later." So I do think there's a couple different areas that, it can automate. The first one is more of that document retrieval, understanding, the processes and tasks that go along with it.
And I think you've touched on it a couple of times now, is just the ability to have a company culture that supports that adoption and the innovation, because without that organizational support, no matter how great the tool, it's not going to work. So
Yep.
curious, what is Veritas doing now where you're shaping that company culture to embrace technological adoption or a culture of innovation, to make sure that you are successful as you continue to evolve your business?
Yeah, no, great question. I think, for us, we use a quote automation tool today. We've been using it for about a year now. And what it is, essentially is, we get all these quotes throughout a day. Sometimes it's hundreds a day, sometimes it's thousands a week, where, does it really make sense for an individual to go in and crunch the numbers, get a quote and send it back, right? Like, what value is that bringing to that person, especially if that person's in a sales role that can go out there and develop relationships and has experience in our industry? Where if we can automate that quote tool, where we can get the quote, we can mark it up, 8-10%, and then move along with our day and win a handful of loads or win a handful of shipments out there that we wouldn't have won before. Well, now we've just freed up our salesperson's time where they can go and they develop a relationship. Something I believe that like a bot or an AI tool can't do. An AI tool at this point, and maybe it can in the future, right? Maybe I should, I'm selling the AI tool short, but I think at that point, it is something that is, I want our salespeople on the phone developing these relationships
Sure.
and continuing to gain business, from them.
Two more questions here. So, looking at where you were with the spreadsheets and the systems 5 years ago, compared to what tools you have available now,
Yeah.
what would you say you wish you had had the most? If you were to look back at when the company started and said, "Man, if we had had this tool or this feature, it would have been game changing for us back then."
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it it's kind of I think, a natural progression, right? And, some of it is we had to do it based on the fact that, uh, we didn't have money. We didn't have money to spend on someone use technology, right? Like we had to do the spreadsheets because we couldn't afford $1,000 a month, on the service to do that. But I think, coming from that side of it, I think there is some resourcefulness where you learn that and you say, oh, okay, this is how it used to be. This is how it is today. And understanding, okay, I'm using these technology tools to help me out in the future, especially with, some of the stuff that is, some of those tasks that we mentioned before that, are, kind of mundane or they're not revenue generating, right? So those are some of the things that, we're focused on moving forward.
Okay, great. And then last question, looking ahead in your crystal ball, in the next 2 years, what digital innovations would you love to see that will help you, navigate this increasingly complex supply chain landscape?
Yeah. So I think, to answer your question, I think it's just a continuing of the modernization of a lot of the AI tools that we're seeing. And I think, again, I think it has to be manipulated in a certain point. That's where I go back and you have to have a good operator behind the technology and you have to have a good culture within the company to adopt some of these technological advances. I've been, at a couple different companies before and heard some stories where, they roll out all this tech and they roll out all these new features and nobody uses them, right? They get sit there, you pay a lot of money for them and nobody uses them. And it's like, well, hold on, what are we paying for? I think our TMS that we have today is called Turbo. It's phenomenal TMS, right? Like our team loves it. We're a big fan of it. I also think that we're not utilizing it to the best of its capability, where we're not collaborating as much as we should inside the TMS. And that's something that, we want to make sure that, as the operator, as um, the person in charge of that, we want to make sure that people are using that for efficiencies within the business. So, 2 years out, I don't have a crystal ball. At the same time, I think we're going to get a lot better. I think AI is going to get a lot better. I think the services provided are going to get a lot better. And I think it will, creep into some of those areas that we've been talking to, as far as like document retrieval, as far as the voice AI that there's a handful of companies out there within our industry today that do that, and then even on the sales side, as far as follow up, sales cadence, different types of emails, different types of information gathering type of information, stuff like that.
Well, thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciated having you on the show today. I know our clients are going to get a ton of value out of this conversation. I really appreciate your insights.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rourke. Appreciate you having me on the show.
Thank you.